Good morning, it is Wednesday the 19th of November. I'm Alec Hogg from Biznews and here's your update. Overnight, not a whole lot happening on stock markets, bumping around pretty much where they closed the day before. That's the United States and then in the Far East in Asia. But there's news coming out of Brazil which is not very happy. Brazil being one of the BRICS, who haven't had a good time recently. We know the problems here in South Africa with Jacob Zuma. Vladimir Putin, the R of BRICS, got a short shrift at the G20 meeting because of his activities in Ukraine. And now comes bad news for Dilma Rousseff. She is the president recently elected in Brazil. Petrobras is the major energy group in Brazil. It's partly privatized, so it is listed on the stock market. But Dilma Rousseff was the president, or the chairman rather, of Petrobras up until 2010, a period during which masses of funds were misappropriated. There is a corruption scandal involving billions of dollars that has broken in Brazil. A lot of that money found its way into the coffers of the political party that Dilma Rousseff represents as in the presidency. So that's the start of a story that could see Brazil, well it is already, Brazil's own Nkandla. Talking about Nkandla, the repercussions continue there. Last week we saw the fracas in Parliament by the opposition parties, the DA and the EFF. Yesterday, Cyril Ramaphosa, the Deputy President of South Africa, met with the two political parties trying to re-establish some decorum. For now, the politicians have promised that they will behave themselves. We'll see. Onto the business front, a significant development in the private equity field. Now, this is not an area where many investors are fully familiar because private equity is a different route to market. In South Africa, we had a company called Brait, which until its recent restructuring was a listed private equity firm. What Brait would do is raise money, much of it in fact internationally, to invest in companies which it would put the money into for a limited period, say 5, 7 or 9 years. The money would then be repaid at the end of that period to the investors who came in the first place. So like a long-term deposit, excepting that it was longer than most bank deposits and also it was invested in private companies. Now the problem with this is that you might get to a period where you have to repay the investors and the companies aren't 100% at their value just yet. And in other words, you're being acted upon by the timing of the requirements of investors. Someone who's very different and who's never played by those rules is Warren Buffett, whose Berkshire Hathaway has been one of the great success stories. And he does private equity in many ways. He buys companies, usually 100% of them, as subsidiaries. But his holding period is not 5, 7 or 9 years. It's forever. Blackstone, who are one of the biggest financial services groups in the world, is taking a tip from Warren Buffett. They had just launched a fund where they say that the holding period will not be determined, will be indeterminate, and almost like a rolling fund, but like Buffett. In their case, they probably will be selling those private equity investments, in other words, the underlying companies that they acquire. But it is interesting to see that one man's achievement is shifting the views of an entire industry. Also, here on the local front, PPC saga turned a new leaf yesterday when at CNBC Africa we had in our Power Lunch studio Ketsa Gordon, the outgoing chief executive, and the chairman of that company, Becky Sibia. Becky came in first. We spoke a little about the results and then we started talking about the big shareholder meeting which is coming on the 8th of December and why exactly the PPC board has stood so steadfastly behind the villain of the piece, I guess you could call her, the Chief Financial Officer, Trafosa Romana. He said that she was an executive director, she'd done nothing wrong, and indeed that he felt that she'd done a fine job. Ketsa Gordon came into the studio after the break. I believe the two of them did meet in the green room. I didn't manage to get a video of it. They shook hands rather stiffly, and one of them said to the other, "Why did it have to come to this? Why did we have to discuss this in public?" And the other said, "Well, because we couldn't reach agreement in private." Interesting. I wish I had that video. But anyway, Ketsa came in and he said, well, it's all fairly simple, really. as business often is, it's driven by personalities and people. When he applied for the job at PPC, so did Trafosa Romano, the CFO. Now, it's an unwritten rule in business that if you're in a very senior position and you apply for a job and you don't get it, well, very soon thereafter you leave. You let the new CEO take over. Or you at least, if you do have a Damascene conversion, you make sure that you let the CEO know about this. In Trafosa Romano's case, according to Gordon, she did not. She made his life a living hell, he says. She tried to white-hand him at every opportunity, and after a couple of years, he had had enough, and he said to her, "It's you or me, and I'm the CEO, so goodbye, pack your bags, I'm firing you." The board of directors did not agree with it, and here we are. As Ketso said, it was within his rights to get rid of her, and the board seems not to believe so. On the 8th of December, shareholders will get to choose whether they want to put Ketso Gordon back in or whether they want to kick out Becky Sabia and his entire board. Becky did say to me that they have gone ahead with the recruitment process at the moment. Indeed, he is running the company as executive chairman, and the recruitment process has a short list of 10, and on those 10, damn it, I didn't ask him, but one would assume that Trafosa Romano is amongst them. Isn't that interesting? How business sometimes represents more like politics than it does in the way of developing our or looking after our wealth. Just to close off with, we've also got a piece on Biznews this morning on innovation. Anthea Jeffries from the IRR has written a piece on the way that the rules are going to be changing for patents. South Africa not doing too well in the patent setup. We sign about or register about 7,500 patents a year. Number one in the world now is China with 650,000 patents. The Americans are 540,000. But new rules could put even that 7,500 at risk. Great piece, go and read it. But then again, you've got lots to read on Biznews, not least watch the videos and read the transcripts about the PPC saga. Well, once again, we're ahead of the pack. I'll be back again with you tomorrow. Join me then. Cheers.